Hello everyone and welcome to week 3 in ESL 344. We're starting a new chapter. It's going to be chapter 2 for the idiom that we're doing. And this week we're going to do a little bit of research, and I'm going to show you how to use a couple of techniques to dig deeper into the idioms that you are looking at in the book. And you want to learn them at a deeper level so that you can turn around and use them in your own conversation. We want you to have enough confidence that you not only understand the idiom when you look at it in writing, but you, in native speaking environment, would be able to use it with confidence. Okay? So, a couple of things we're going to do here. I'm going to show you a few ways that you can look at researching these idioms. And then for week 3, you're going to go to the discussion board. And the discussion board is going to be outlined based on your last name. So you're going to be assigned 2 idioms depending on what your last name is. So group 1, you're going to talk about the idioms all of a sudden and be out of control. Group 2, not at all or at all, and not have a clue or have a clue. Group 3, and look where your names begin with, your last name. This is your last name, okay? Go through all the trouble of and in peace. Group 4, for those of you with L through M, for once and take forever. And for N through R, keep under control or be under control. And group 6, put up with or have nothing to do with. And then finally, group 7, the bottom line, and here comes. Okay. So you will be researching the 2 that were assigned to you, and then you will be posting your answers in a reply. And then what I want each of you to do is once you post the 2 examples that you found and explain them, then you're going to go to someone else's post and comment on their posting. You're not going to do with anybody in your group because you already know those idioms. So if I'm in group 6, I'm going to post my 2 examples, but then I'm going to go find some idiom that I want to know more about. So I'm going to go to another group, and maybe I'm not really confident with all of a sudden. So maybe I'll go to this group and learn the examples that this group posted. And there could be 4, 5, 6 examples depending on how many students are in that group with those last names. Okay? So let's go on and find out how is it that you're going to do the research. Well, there's 2 ways. This week, I want you to use Google, and I want you to use the BBC. And I'm going to start out with the BBC because they have some excellent information on their website. So I will put the links in the discussion board, but it is the bbc.co.uk. And again, I'll have this link for you. And in their search bar, you just click on their search bar. You want to type in your idiom. So for example, if I typed in at all, that idiom, what does that mean? So I typed it in, I hit the search bar here, and then I'm going to go down and see if I can find at all. Well, I find all, but it has to be at all because that's the idiomatic expression, so the 2 have to come together. I come down here and it said in all, so I know it's not that one. But here I find at all. And so what I'm going to do is I want to find out, what does this mean? So I'm going to write down this example. As thick as 2 planks, very stupid, not at all clever. So we've got very stupid and not at all clever, and I can already tell that if you're not this, then you are probably that. So if you're not at all, that means no chance, without any hope. Okay, no possibility of, that's what not at all means. Being smart, then the opposite of that is you're not very smart or you're stupid, okay? So you're going to maybe write down that idiom in your example. Or maybe you would keep scrolling down and maybe you don't want that example. So I'm going to try to find another one that says at all. Here's one that says at all. And this one says, but that bright color isn't my taste at all. So maybe you would write that one down. And you could go and see what this means. if you want to click on the article, okay? So there's a couple of examples there, but if you don't like any that you see, and I don't have any more that show at all here, then what you want to do is you just keep scrolling down until you come up with more, okay? So what you'll see here is show more results, and you can go on. All right, let's try a different one. Let's say I'm still at the bbc.co.uk website here. And let's say I'm going to type in going through the trouble of. I put it in quotation marks because when you put it in quotation marks, what you're telling the search engine is you really want to see this whole phrase all together. You don't want it broken up if possible. So it's just a way of narrowing your search a little bit. So when you come in to do your search, try putting it in quotation marks, which lets the server know that you're looking for that phrase and that phrase only. So this one gave me a lot of choices. We'll keep going down here, going through troubled times, but I'm still looking at going through the trouble of. So I really want that one. So here is, again, we want that whole phrase, going through the trouble of. So let me see what this one says. And we'll bring that one up. And then I'll have to read through the article to see if I can find the phrase going through the trouble of. Now, there is a way to go directly to that phrase without having to read all of this information. Do you guys know the trick to be able to find something on a web page very quickly? You might know it, but there's a keyboard stroke that you can use, and for Mac, it's Command F. And in the PC, it's Control F. So I'm going to hit Command F on my keyboard, and it's going to bring up a little search bar for me. You see this bar right here? And I'm just going to type going through the trouble of. I have to say going through the trouble. See how that brought it up? So I put up here. Let me just show it to you. I'll type the whole expression for you. And it brings me directly in the article where they're using it. So I wanted to teach this to you because you're English language learners, and as you're searching through articles for something specific, it doesn't have to be just for my class. For idioms, it could be for vocabulary or any other item that you're trying to search for. Again, on your keyboard, it is Command F if you are a Mac user and Control F if you are a PC user. And then you just type in exactly what you want to find, and there it comes up. It will highlight it for you. So let's look at the idiom going through the trouble of. Last spring, my fridge broke down, and instead of going through the trouble of buying a new one, I decided to experiment with living without one. So this shows the opposite of taking the effort, which going through the trouble of means going through the effort of doing something. So what this is saying is that they decided not to go through the effort of buying a new refrigerator. They decided to do something else, okay? So that is searching the BBC, and the BBC is very, very good at coming up with how idioms are used in natural conversation and in articles of writing. But let's now go to Google, which is another way for you to do this research. And I'd like for you to do one of each. I want you to do the BBC for one of your idioms and Google for another, just so you can have the experience. And then when you go and report yours, I want you to tell me which one you used for Google and which one you used for the BBC, okay? And this is just all part of the homework. It's part of the points that you get, and it's a good exercise for you. So let me go to Google, and you guys know to go to google.com, right? We just type in google.com. This is what I want you to type. Now, of course, what goes in the quotations will just depend on what your idiom is, but you're going to start all of your search in Google with articles with. You see that? Articles with, and then you put quotations, and then you put whatever your idiom is. In this case, I'm using going through the trouble of. So I can say go through the trouble of, or we also have the idiom going through the trouble of. You can use both, and I believe your book says that there are both that you can do. So go through the trouble of, and notice what I have here. Many, many come up. Go through the trouble of. And down here, go through the trouble of. Okay? So there were several that I found. Now, what I like to do is I like to go into the article because it will help me understand that idiom better if I read a little bit about the story. So let's take one and see what we want to do. We'll try the first one here, okay? And that's from the Huffington Post, so we'll try this one. And I want to do my Command F because I don't want to search this entire article. So maybe I can Command F this and put going through the trouble of. So we're going to look for it, and this might be go through the trouble of, which is why I can't find it. So it has to be exact. There it is, go through the trouble of. So I had to get go instead of going. And notice it takes me right to the idiom. And now I'm going to look at this. Okay, if you're going to go through the trouble of replacing the flooring into your home, you might as well spring for a hard surface such as wood or tile. This is actually an idiom too, okay? That means take all the money, use your money, okay? So if I'm going to do this as an exercise for the discussion board, I might take this whole thing, or I just might take it to here, and I'm just going to copy it. So you don't have to go through a lot of trouble. I'm going to come back here, and then my example would be, I'm going to reply. So let's say that my last name began with I or K or something. So one of mine would be go through the trouble of. Okay. So I might type in something like this. I'm going to copy and paste what I did over here on my Google search and go through the trouble of. That's one of mine. And then I'm going to put where I found it. So I found this on Google, a Google search, right? And what I think that means is make an effort to find the right floor for your home. The other thing, remember, is the BBC. So I'm going to come over here and look at my last name. And in peace was one of them. So I'm going to come back to my BBC search, and I'm going to put in peace. So now I'm going to put this in quotations. So this something is in peace right here. So I got one. And maybe that's the only one that I get. There's not many that came up with that. So let me see what in peace came up with here. Remember, I don't want to look all around, so I'm going to Command F this for, and type in peace. Perfect. So now, okay, so the context of this is I cannot stand the Christmas in October nonsense. So if the marketing people have to bang on about anything, autumn's as good as anything, at least it's truly seasonal. That said, I wish they'd all just give it a rest and leave us in peace. Really, what kind of idiot would send anyone an autumn card? So they're talking about how Christmas starts too soon, and this person wants the advertisers to leave us in peace, basically leave us alone. So I might just grab this one because it gives me a lot of the idea of what that means. I'm going to copy that and come back here, and I'm going to paste my second one, and that's in peace, right? I'll make that small. And that meant what? There it is from the internet. And then my search was BBC. And what did it mean? People want to be left alone in October because they don't want to hear about Christmas. About Christmas that early, right? They want to hear about Christmas maybe, but not that early. Okay, so those are the two things I'm going to do. And then when someone else posts, I'm going to go find their posting and I'm going to respond to them. Okay, so that's the homework for the discussion board. How this helps you, everybody, is that you get to read other people's research and get to know the idiom in different environments, different magazine articles, different videos, different context, so you can become an expert at idioms. And that's our goal. We want you to have a native-like understanding of how to read, understand, and then use idiomatic expressions.